Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Zone Blitz. As always, I'm Vince Miller, joined by my co-host Ashton Overholt. It has been a while since we recorded. A lot has happened. Ashton, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, good. As a Georgia fan, it was a very interesting playoff game, and I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty. I, truthfully, really just surprised to be here still, if we're being totally honest. So, yep, no, had a really good holidays and New Year. We actually got to spend some time together. Like we, for those of you all that don't know, we live in different states and very seldom see each other. But yeah, we got to hang out on the beach and play a little bit of beach football. It was a good time.
Yes, it was. I enjoyed it a lot. Um, well, you mentioned the Georgia game. Let's just jump right into the playoff. Well, we'll talk about the Georgia Ohio State game. So this game was all Ohio State for a lot of it.
Mhm.
Georgia ends up winning 42-41. Sorry to spoil the ending. Um, what are your takeaways? This game was wild. I think there's a lot of places we can go with this, but like, what is it? Just you've had almost a week now to like process what happened. What is
Mhm.
kind of the top thing for you about what we saw?
This is not the kind of game that Georgia wanted to be in. If there was any type of game that Georgia wanted to play with Ohio State, it was not the lot of possession shootout up and down the field, real fast paced type of game. That was the least of Georgia's options. Ohio State matched up very well with Georgia. There's no doubt about it. Harrison Jr. was really good. I think Harrison Jr. only had 5 receptions, and people talk about him a lot. He had 2 touchdowns, and he was very valuable. But Emeka Ibuka was really good as well. He had 8 for
Hmm.
112. He actually had more receptions and more yards than Harrison Jr. That's where I was surprised. That was Ohio State's depth at receiver. I think
Yeah.
they were multiple, and they were able to really hurt Georgia in really get after the secondary in that way. That was, I think, the surprise to me was how multiple they were. I thought there was a step down after Harrison. We all know that Harrison's great. I thought there was clearly a step down. Even Julian Fleming had a big game. I was really impressed. CJ
Mhm.
Stroud played the game that we've been waiting on for 2 years, man. Like,
Yeah.
this was the best game of his career. If he plays like this against Michigan this year or last year, they win. Like,
Yeah.
that was what surprised me. Because he has that top level performance in him, man. Because like Georgia's defense is as good as anybody's, and he diced him up, man. He was excellent. Um, it, in some ways, it's okay for me to be a little upset. Like, where was this all the rest of the time? Yeah, like why do you have to put on the best against my team? Like, in your Michigan, you're just like not doing that against Michigan. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Ohio State. It was hard not to watching the game. Ohio
Mhm.
State's really good. Um, yeah, a lot of depth there. I think that was surprising. Ohio State, we knew they had talent, but they had depth of talent. I think that was really neat.
Yeah, I was also very like just really impressed with the way CJ Stroud played.
Yeah,
And Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the best receiver in college football. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
he
agreed.
was playing so well.
Yeah.
You mentioned Emeka Egbuka. He was also playing well, but Stroud, he escaped pressure most of the time. I think he got sacked at least once, but he was stepping up in the pocket and just throwing dimes everywhere. It was impressive to watch. That's the type of play that will make him very rich one day.
No, I agree. He helped out his draft stock so much.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
he did get sacked. Actually got sacked 4 times total, but
Oh wow. Okay.
he made a lot of people miss. There was a lot of people
Yeah.
that he made miss in the backfield. Multiple times. The last run that he had, I thought that had won the game for him. The run late deep into Georgia territory. I think it was 30 or 40 yards that he picked up just scrambling, just kind of making guys miss in the open field. And yeah, I thought that had won them the football game. It didn't, but 12 carries for CJ. Like, everyone was talking about, will he actually run? He's their leading
Did?
rusher. He had 12 carries. He was
Yeah.
the game's leading rusher. Georgia
By the
didn't even have
way,
anyone with 12 carries.
Ohio State had, other than that, like they had no running game to show for. Like
No, that's right.
coming into the year, we thought that they had the best offense in the country, partially because of their
Right.
running game.
Right. Yeah.
And Georgia wasn't having it. They were not going to let Ohio State run. So the fact that they put up 41 points in this game without a running game against Georgia's defense, yeah. And I do think this is an example of how numbers can be a little misleading. If you just compare the quarterbacks' numbers, both quarterbacks were 23 of 34.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stetson Bennett, 398 yards. CJ Stroud, 348 yards.
Yep.
Looking at that, you would think Stetson Bennett outplayed Stroud, and we'll get to Bennett. And I think there were moments in this game where he played well, but Stroud was impressive. And if you switch the quarterbacks in this game, it's a huge, massive blowout.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I like Stetson Bennett. I like what he does for our team. That's great. That's fantastic. CJ Stroud is by far the better quarterback. Like there's no debating that.
Yeah.
I think the talent that he had there. Ohio State's defense and Georgia's defense are two different animals. And it's one thing for Stetson to go off against an Ohio State defense. I was really impressed with how CJ did it against a really, really good Georgia defense.
Exactly.
And being able, he got sacked 4 times, but he didn't get sped up. Like he never lost composure. There was never that the fourth quarter against Michigan moment where he starts making just kind of some dumb passes. There's a couple interceptions late against Michigan. He never had that moment, even when he had a lot of pressure on him. So yeah, no, he made himself a ton of money. That's exactly right. I hope what we don't do is, because CJ's a little bit bigger than Bryce Young, and we'll get into the NFL draft stuff. That's in April, man. That's a long time from now. Bryce Young is still the best quarterback in the NFL, or that will be going into the NFL.
Yeah.
CJ is too. I agree with you there. Let's leave Bryce at 1. Like
Sure.
CJ can go. He can go ahead of Will Levis. He can go ahead of Anthony Richardson or whoever else you want to throw up there. That's fine. Yeah, but yeah, no, just yeah. Hats off to CJ. Hats off to the whole team. The Ohio State's defense has real issues. I think it was very easy for Georgia to score. You saw it with the long Arian Smith touchdown. Yeah, Georgia ran the ball. They were gashing them. Kenny McIntosh only had 5 carries. He had 70 yards on just those 5 carries. Like Georgia ran the ball really well against Ohio State. Yeah, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of the Georgia team. I think overcoming adversity, they had to. Playing from behind almost all game. That's something we didn't know if they could do against top level competition, and they did. So yeah, Georgia onto the championship. It sets up, I mean, an opportunity for a repeat with Stetson Bennett. Like, are you just freaking kidding me right now? Like, that doesn't even make sense. If you would have told me that like a year ago, like, no, he's not just going to win one. Stetson Bennett might actually repeat. I would have laughed you out of the room.
Let's just kind of go back to that first half a little bit, because Ohio State kind of came out of the blocks. They were the aggressor. They were the team that, I mean, it was 21-7. They were making it happen. As the Georgia fan, what was going through your mind? Like, what were the things, like, what are you doing? Like, because we all have that tendency, like, when our team is playing poorly, we have all the magic answers that they should be doing. What was in your what were the things in your mind that Georgia was not doing well in the first half? Why did they fall behind so far?
Yeah, the Georgia has a weakness this year that they didn't have last year, and they probably won't actually have again next year. They'll probably get it fixed next year, but they don't really have good edge pass rushers. They really don't. Like after Nolan Smith got hurt, there wasn't the next guy that really stepped up that had experience. So Georgia wasn't able to get pressure off the edge. They ended up having to blitz a lot to get pressure. A lot of the sacks that you'll see is usually a linebacker coming in free and knocking down Stroud. It left them open over the middle, and also on the deep corner route, Georgia never actually covered the deep over route, like that deep 20-yard corner that Ohio State kept throwing and throwing. And yeah, it was because they were having to blitz safeties and linebackers to get pressure on Stroud. So the lack of edge pass rush, I think, was something that Ohio State was able to exploit a bit in a way that no one else really had all year. And it involves Stroud just making guys miss and then taking one-on-ones. And Ohio State has NFL receivers that, I mean, you can have really good cornerbacks. NFL receivers are going to win a fair amount of one-on-one battles. And yeah, I think that's what
Mhm.
Ohio State did. I thought they had a really good offensive game plan. Yeah, kind of all the way around. They kind of gave up running the ball, and that's fine. It's hard to run the ball against Georgia's interior, but if you can take advantage of their lack of edge, I really like their game plan. I think TCU, hopefully, yeah, TCU will probably try to use a good bit of that as well, and just neutralizing a almost suspect Georgia pass rush. It hasn't been great this year.
Yeah. From my own personal perspective, it seemed to me like Georgia was almost a little too willing to get into kind of a shootout. CJ Stroud versus Stetson Bennett in the first half. Um, and I say that knowing that Bennett finished with 398 yards and played great in the fourth quarter. But in the
Right.
first half, they were averaging over 9 yards a carry, and they had twice as many pass attempts as rushes. And it felt like it was. I don't know. I never thought I would have to say that Georgia is not running the ball enough. Like that's never been a thing
Right.
that I
Right.
ever thought would be an issue with a Georgia offense. If anything, they have the opposite problem. But it felt to me, and I'm curious, like, am I wrong? Is this just a bad perspective from the outside? It felt like they weren't running the ball enough, and I know that's a common complaint from college football fans: run the dang ball, and
Sure.
it's often kind of stupid. It did feel to me like maybe it was legitimate in this game.
Yeah, and I don't have a really good like response to that either. Like I felt the same way, especially in the third quarter where your offense kind of sputtered. You had some early 3-and-outs. Like for Georgia, why are we not running? Like this has worked so well for us all year. It's what we base our whole offense really on. Georgia's is still a run first team
Yeah,
at its origin. That's what they want to do. They want to run the ball first. They were, I know they were trying to target the middle linebacker Eichenberg. Like the goal was to
yeah,
try to get Eichenberg on a slot receiver and then throw a seam route. Like, and they did it a lot, and it was very successful for them. And that's, they were trying to attack kind of the middle of the field. That was kind of where they based a lot of their offense on. I, yeah, it worked. No, I agree with you though. Maybe they got a little too smart. They also didn't get the ball to Bowers enough for me. Like he
yeah,
went large sections of the game without getting the ball, and like yeah, that's almost malpractice. Like you have to get the guy more than, I think he had 4 catches. He has to have more than that, man. Like
yeah,
he's still the best player Georgia has, the best receiver Georgia has. Yeah, and so I they still put up 42 points. Like you can say all
yeah.
these things and
Exactly.
kind of try to nitpick all these things. Georgia's offense is not the problem here. They put up 42.
Yeah,
At some point, I just kind of got done with the nitpicking because that's what we were
sure.
doing. In my opinion, these are the two best teams in the country, and this game was almost a de facto national championship game.
Yeah,
And yeah, they were extremely talented teams, and they went toe to toe, and it came down to a kick. And I mean,
yeah,
a literal coin flip game, and yeah, it goes Georgia's way. Maybe we just enjoy that and not try to nitpick too much.
yeah. So can we? Do you think we're done with the fire Ryan Day talk from Ohio State fans, or is it just like it just it makes him safe until next year's Michigan game, and people will just be waiting for them to, like, obviously if they lose to Michigan the third time in a row, like is that the point where it doesn't matter what else you've done, even if you're winning 11 games a year, you're out of here?
He's gone if he loses to Michigan next year. I'm
Yeah,
serious.
he
I
might
don't care
be.
if he goes 11-0 and then loses to Michigan and finishes 11-1. That means they probably don't win the Big Ten again for the third straight year. You have to beat Michigan. Like that's the whole thing, man. Like that's
Yeah,
what gets these guys fired. It's great that he played well. It's great that like you saw all the emotion on the sideline. People like to talk about that. He was all jacked up about this game, and he had a good game plan on offense. You have to fix your defense, and you're gonna have to go to Ann Arbor and probably go up against JJ McCarthy and probably Harbaugh. More on that in a bit. You're probably gonna have to play those guys, and like, do you feel better about your chances of beating them there? I don't know. Like, yeah, it puts a pause on the fire Ryan Day conversation, but only until next November, man. Like only until
yeah.
next November. Yeah.
Obviously, we'll never know, and this is just rampant speculation and
Okay.
just
It's the best
absolutely
kind.
reckless. Yeah. We're really close. We were really close to a Michigan Ohio State title game.
Yeah.
Who wins that matchup in your mind?
Ohio State's the better team. They are. If Ohio State plays the game they play against Georgia, if they play that same game against Michigan, they win, which is baffling to me. How did
Yeah.
they lose at home, man? That was at the Horseshoe that Ohio State lost to them. And that was, you can't say they weren't motivated or it snuck up on them. None of that happened. It was, they clearly said, like, this is the game we're looking forward to all year. It kind of makes me think maybe, yeah, it might be a mental thing at this point.
Yeah.
Harbaugh kind of alludes to it a little bit. Maybe it is. Maybe Michigan has that extra advantage there. I would still say Ohio State though. Like just from a pure what I saw in the playoff games, Ohio State was the better team.
Yeah, I think I agree. Clearly the more talented team.
Yeah.
It just continues to baffle me the way they have lost.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
No sense at all.
Well, speaking of Michigan, TCU beats Michigan 51-45. Kind of led the whole. Actually, yeah, I think they led wire to wire. This was a game though. Like this was back and forth. Michigan was mounting a comeback. TCU got a couple pick sixes that were obviously big.
Yeah.
Just some horrific reffing both ways in this game. Yeah. But this was fun. Like this was just one of those games that it was just extremely drunk and a lot of fun.
Yeah, both were. Like they both were.
Yeah. True.
No, I agree. JJ McCarthy throws two picks. They're both pick sixes.
Yeah.
That hurt a lot. The end around Philly special play that they ran on 4th and 2, or 4th and goal from the 2 early on, that was a 0-0 ball game. Michigan has a chance to go down and just punch him in the face right off the bat and go up 7-0. How you call that play, I'll never know. I will never know. I blame that on Michigan's coaching. Michigan hasn't won a bowl game in their last 6 attempts. 6.
Yeah.
Last 6 attempts. And I mean, 2 times they were Big Ten champs and were in the playoff. Last year you lost to Georgia. Georgia last year was a different team. Like you weren't on the same level as them, but you were better than TCU this year. Michigan was a better football team over the course of the year than TCU was. And they lost. And I think it's coaching. I really do. I think they were the more talented team and they got a little too smart with it. I think they needed to run the ball more with Donovan Edwards. I think that's what needed to happen.
I was actually pretty impressed the way, other than the big run at the beginning of the game, like TCU, it seemed like they shut down the run game, which is not something you would expect from a 3-3-5 team. Like, I don't know. Like, TCU feels like they just don't make sense to me this year. They were picked to finish 7th in their conference before the season, and they've won like 8 one-score games this year.
Yeah.
But they just keep finding ways. I think they have Tim Tebow 2.0 as their quarterback, and they have a really good receiver and a couple other explosive players, and they have a solid defense that makes some really good plays. And I was just really impressed. I know Michigan scored 45 points, but I was impressed by the way they did make some stops they had to make. And then on the flip side, like they were explosive when they had to be, even though they weren't always efficient.
TCU's offense was really good, all game long. All game long, TCU's offense was really good. There was a point in this game where Michigan had come back. They cut the lead. I believe it was to 5. TCU goes on I think that was the big play to Johnson. They hit the big touchdown play to Johnson. And you realize like that's the shot where if TCU was ever going to crumble, it was there. And they didn't. Like they answered the bell time after time. Michigan kept on moving the ball. But every time they had a chance to really get close, TCU would score another touchdown. And like it was the offensive drives that they sustained in the second half. That was really impressive. And that's where I think you have to consider how TCU has trailed a lot in all of these games. They're not going to flinch. Like they're not scared. Like they're not going to back down even if they are trailing. They never trailed in this game. But even if they are, they're not going to step down. So it was impressive. A gamer, moxie, whatever you want to call, like maxed up. He's all of that, right? He's right. He is all of those things, the intangibles. Yeah, I don't. the gym rat coach's son, they all apply to Max Duggan. He's a gamer, I guess.
Yeah.
That's another word for you. Yeah, and I was also impressed with how TCU ran the ball as well. I
Yeah.
think that was maybe just something that is a little overlooked. Duggan's great, Quentin Johnston's great. TCU really ran the ball. They were in some ways more physical than Michigan. That was really surprising.
It doesn't make sense. If you'd have told me before the game, Max Duggan is going to complete 14 of 29 passes
Yeah,
for only 225. He's going to throw two interceptions, and
yeah.
he's only going to run for 3.8 yards per carry.
Mm.
There's no way TCU is winning that game, but there you go. The team had 263 rushing yards with
Yeah.
Kendre Miller going out early with an injury.
Right. Right.
Yeah, DeMarcado really shown he's been good. He's been a really good like second back all year. And just the fact that they ran that well in that defense is impressive. Tip your cap to them. Obviously, the season for them has been a resounding success, and I know they don't want to hear that. Like I know that they want to win the national title. Um, Maybe we should just get right into that. So
Okay.
TCU Georgia national title.
Yeah.
Georgia a 12.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
Massive favorite, like huge for a national title game.
Sure. The biggest in recent memory, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Is I know you're a Georgia fan,
Yeah.
so that can go either extremely homerish or it can go you see the flaws, the potential hiccups. Like,
Right.
does TCU have any shot?
No, they don't. And not to come across homerish at all. You've been more bullish on Georgia's national championship
Yeah.
hopes this year than I have. I've been openly saying that repeating is the hardest thing to do in sports, and simply in college football, it just doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen much at all. Georgia's going to repeat as national champs. I think it's not actually that close. TCU is a great team. That's incredible. Both of these teams played nail biters in playoff games. Both of these games were instant classics. Who is going to be able to have the depth and the experience and the like who's going to respond better to that? Georgia has a much better chance of playing well in the second game a week later. I think that favors Georgia. TCU doesn't have I don't think they have the depth. TCU does not have the depth that Ohio State did at receiver to go toe-to-toe with Georgia and expose the secondary. I don't think they do. I don't think TCU is going to be able to run on Georgia like they were able to run on Michigan. I don't see that happening. I think Georgia wins. I think Georgia probably covers. The line right now is 12.5, which is, like we said, massive for a national title game. I think they cover. I do.
Yeah.
I think Georgia can really on offense move the ball at will against this TCU team. Yeah, Michigan would have been a much better matchup against Georgia than TCU. I really think that.
Yeah, I would like to think that TCU has a shot here. It's just hard for me to see the path.
Right.
I think that Georgia is just a terrible matchup for them. They're basically facing Michigan, but with better athletes everywhere.
Right.
I think Michigan would have been a better matchup with Georgia, but I also feel like I would be almost as confident about a Georgia win against Michigan as I am about a TCU matchup. I just think Ohio State was the worst possible matchup for Georgia, and we got to see that game.
No, I agree. That was the championship for me.
Yeah.
Ohio State Georgia was the championship, and once you give Georgia that extra chance, I really don't think that they will be beat. Michigan in this game against TCU outgained them. They had more first downs, more time of possession. They had the same amount of turnovers. The only difference was Michigan didn't return the interceptions for touchdowns, and they kind of got.
Yeah.
Did you at all? How did they overturn the long pass at the 1 yard line that was initially called a touchdown? It was a 4-point swing.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they missed that call. I don't get how you get that one wrong. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either. I think I think I can understand what they thought they saw. I just don't know how they thought they saw that. Like
Right. right. It
and
had to be conclusive. You have to have
yeah,
conclusive evidence to overturn. I saw zero conclusive things.
it felt like there was a lot of that in that game. It just didn't seem like they were very
Yeah,
on it.
right.
That specific crew.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I will say, like, there's always that chance that the one team wins a turnover battle by 4 or something stupid like
sure,
that.
sure.
Um, that said, like, if TCU actually would happen to win this game somehow, can you overstate how big of a deal that would be? Like, that would upset everything we know about college football, essentially. Like, the talent level you have to win a national
Right.
title. It,
No, I
everything.
agree. That's where I go to it right away. That's why I think Georgia will win and win convincingly. You simply can't win championships if you're outside the top 15 in talent composite rankings.
No,
That it doesn't no, it does not happen.
no.
So and TCU's not in it. Like they're not even close in it.
There's
So like
32.
I know they're so far out. They like if you look at it from that way, they have zero chance of winning. But it's a 60-minute football game, and
Yep.
if they do, it's historic. Like it's all of those
Yeah.
things. It's yeah. I don't even know how to say it. They weren't even playing Power Five football just a couple of years ago. Not even a Power Five team. So yeah, incredible job by Sonny Dykes. We're
Mm.
going to go ahead and give TCU their flowers like right now
Yeah.
because it's incredible what they've done to win a playoff game in the state of Texas before Texas A&M, who are spending way more money than TCU is, just literally next door. It has to be one of the greatest recruiting. Yeah, like he's actually getting a lot of guys out of the portal as well right
Yeah.
now. Sonny Dykes, he's cleaning up. He's getting some flips even in recruiting. It's impressive what he's doing. That's awesome. It's good for them. Enjoy it because you might only have till Monday
Yeah.
Monday evening, and then it kind of starts to get a little cloudy. But yeah, enjoy this. It's been an incredible year for TCU.
This year feels a little bit like some kid in Fort Worth is sitting on his Xbox, picked the number 32 team in the country, and is
There you
just
go.
really good at beating the computer.
Yeah.
and and here they are in the national championship game. I think it ends. If we were still doing locks of the week, I would make this an absolute lock. Take Georgia minus the points. It just, yeah, it doesn't. I just don't see the path other than like some wild 4 turnover differential, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we'll see that because I think that Georgia will be determined to take care of the ball. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to give Stetson some throws that they scheme up for him. I don't think he's going to throw for 398 yards in this game. I don't think he'll have to. I could very
Mm-hmm.
much see it be the type of game where Georgia goes up. They could be the team that's up 21-7, and their defense is just too good, and they sit on TCU enough that TCU can't get to 35, and they probably need to get to 35 to win this game.
TCU could easily backdoor cover this game. Like
Sure.
I could see that happening easily. Like they go score a touchdown with a minute left, and pull within 10 points or whatever. That could happen. So yeah, I'm not saying that the money is for sure. I don't see it. And if somehow TCU does win, we will both come on here and just say like we were wrong. Like
Yes.
we did not see this one coming. And why would we have? Due to any previous information that we've known to be valid about predicting college football games. Like so it's the original Rudy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess like TCU is Rudy in from the movie, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's all I have. I think on the game. I think Georgia they're going to get their tight end like Darnell Washington looks to be healthy. He's kind of
Okay.
walking around. If he
That's
plays,
big.
I think you destroy the 3-3-5. I think they
Yeah.
have to end up bringing an extra guy down to just to help stop because that guy's an extra offensive lineman. You're then getting out schemed. Yeah, 7-6 up front, and I think they're going to have to start bringing more people down. TCU will on defense. I think that opens up everything for Georgia.
Yeah, I think TCU was definitely hoping for Ohio State to win that game, just matchup
Agreed.
wise.
Right. No, I
I
agree.
think Ohio State would have had a clear advantage in that potential matchup, but Georgia is just such a worse matchup personnel wise. I think for
Yeah.
this the style of play that TCU wants to play.
Agreed.
Okay, other bowl games. Instead of going through and like listing off scores, I'll just kind of like open it up. Like, what are some bowl games that stood out to you outside of the playoff?
I really liked Clemson, Tennessee. I think that
Yeah.
was fun. The Battle of the Orange. I know Dabo made some comments about Tennessee fans flipping burgers or something. I didn't quite get all of what Dabo was saying. He loses. Joe Milton is an electric factory.
Wow.
Man, that guy has a cannon. They call him Bazooka Joe. I think we even teased like kind of everyone about the Bazooka Joe nickname in the middle of this past season. We know that guy has a cannon. He always has had the cannon. The reason Hendon Hooker started instead of Joe Milton is simply because Joe Milton he has one speed, and that's the fastball. Like
Yeah.
he throws 103, and that's all he has. There's no changeup, there's no curveball slider, there's no touch. He throws heat, and he looks to have maybe developed some touch. He was able to.
Yeah.
There was a 60-yard touchdown throw, like to Keaton. He actually took some off.
Yes.
He kind of like eased his wrist back to not overthrow the guy. He just flicked it. And it was like it traveled 50 something yards in the air. It was like, oh my goodness. Like who's gonna cover this thing if he learns how to use some touch on intermediate throws. He's not as super accurate still. Like he's gonna work on that. Maybe that gets fixed, maybe it doesn't. But oh my goodness, what an arm. That's incredible.
That throw you're talking about, my brother and cousin were watching. We were watching us three together, and we literally we we rewinded and watched that thing probably 5 times. We were that impressed by it. It's just like we need to see this again.
It's wild.
And there's something about that Tennessee offense. I don't know if they can win a national title anytime in the near future, but they have found a way to be successful offensively. And if we have Joe Milton all of next year, maybe it won't be as good as Hendon Hooker, but I'm betting they'll figure out a way that it'll look pretty good.
I've already booked an Airbnb for Knoxville when Georgia goes up there in November. I just for full disclosure. So this is happening. I think Tennessee's going to be really good next year as well. The defense is still a little bit suspect. I know they played well actually against Klubnik.
Yeah.
But Tennessee's offense is special. Like it's a unit that you look at and like you could have a real it's just a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. Just the combination of receivers with the pure quarterback talent that they have is incredible. They run the ball sneaky well. Tennessee actually kind of runs the ball well in that scheme. I think really good year for Josh Heupel. If you don't get blown out by South Carolina, you're in the playoff. Like they were really close to being a playoff team. They're that good. So great cap of the year for Tennessee. Any words about Clemson? Anything we want to say at all? Or are we just going to kind of brush over that one?
I don't know. Is it panic time? It feels more and more like it might be panic time.
Can we get some coordinators from somewhere else?
Right.
would it kill us to maybe just kind of try again this year? Go rehire guys? Like, can we? Maybe Venables could come back. Lord knows it's not working for him out in Oklahoma. Maybe we can. Maybe we can get they need some coordinators. They need some coordinators. The talent's there. Clemson has talent. Klubnik and Shipley. That's a dynamic duo. Like they're going to win football games. They'll probably win the ACC again next year. They will be the favorite to do so. But not against this top level. They're not good against the SEC. I mean, they lost to South Carolina, Tennessee. They lost to Georgia last year. They need to beat these teams. That's where Clemson really made their mark. They beat Alabama. Like that's what was impressive about them. I think they need new coordinators. I really do.
Yeah, I think so. Any other bowl games that you want to talk about?
I enjoyed. Okay, well let's just mention real quick Alabama putting the smackdown on Kansas State. Yeah. Bryce Young opting in, Will Anderson opting in. Those are 2 top 5 NFL draft picks. Had no reason to play this game, 0, and they wanted to come back. Yeah, they hammered them. Like that was they were definitely the better team. If Alabama plays that well all year, they're in the playoff. That's another team. Alabama would be a nightmare matchup in the playoff. No one wants to play Alabama, especially when they're at that level. Bryce Young is that guy. Like we're going to go through the draft process, and everyone's going to knock him because he's too little, he's too slight, he's not tall enough to see. He's not strong. Whatever. The guy plays quarter. He puts really good reps on film. The throws are incredible. He makes people miss. he didn't have good receivers this year, and it didn't even matter. Like, he's that good. So
Yeah.
impressed with Bryce Young. That's, yeah, I just want to throw him a compliment right there.
Uh, as a Colts fan, I'm hoping the Houston Texans are a little bit concerned about that size of his. The CJ Stroud looked pretty good.
You guys are drafting Will Levis. You guys are going to draft Will Levis.
I do not receive that. Don't put that evil on me.
Can we talk about Tulane USC?
Yeah.
Really, I mean, a really good game. We'll talk about Tulane in a second. That's great. Michael Pratt's he's a really good quarterback. They have a really good team overall with Spears, the running back. He was awesome in this game. I want to talk about USC and the defense. Lincoln Riley brought along Alex Grinch from Oklahoma. We questioned him
on purpose.
We didn't like him. We didn't like him when he was at Oklahoma.
No.
And then he can get anyone he wants when he goes to USC. And he brings along Alex Grinch. It was like okay. And I mean, maybe this will work. Maybe this will work, this time around with and no, the correct answer is it's not working. It's not working at all. So there's a lot of guys out there looking for some good defensive coordinators right now.
Well, it's been announced that Jim Leonard is not returning to Wisconsin. If you're USC, why wouldn't you just write him a blank check?
Agreed. I don't know what Alex Grinch has on Lincoln Riley to keep him coming back for more. Because, hey, by the way, Caleb Williams is a really, really good quarterback. He's an incredible quarterback, and you're wasting it. Like, they lost 3 games this year, and you have to wonder, is this maybe just the same as what he had at Oklahoma? Like why go to USC and be the exact same? That's because the results right now are very similar to what he was doing at Oklahoma.
The concerning thing to me is they just got out recruited by Oklahoma this year.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah, it feels like they've kind of they're becoming Oklahoma West. Like,
yeah,
we just moved the Oklahoma program that was in the Big 12, and we put them out in the Pac-12, and it's basically the same thing, which is really good. But you just don't see a way that they can win a national title. And the defense is just not like it won't get there with Alex Grinch.
No, I know. I agree.
Okay. Any other bowl games that fascinated you or you wanted to talk about? There was quite a few, obviously, decent matchups. Sure. What else stands out to you?
The Bo Nix, the comeback for Oregon against North Carolina, I thought was neat. And then Bo Nix also announces that he's returning to Oregon for yet another year. So huge for Dan Lanning. He just continues to rack up wins, both recruiting and otherwise, out there in Eugene. I thought that one was really neat. Notre Dame, South Carolina. Can we talk about it a little bit? Sure. I know you're Notre Dame. I watched this game. I thought it was incredible. That was a really, really good football game.
Yeah. Notre Dame threw two pick sixes by Tyler Buchner in this game. South Carolina also had a fake field goal touchdown.
Yes, that was awesome.
They kind of pulled out all the stops. It did feel like Notre Dame clearly was the better team, and once they kind of settled down, like, it was over. If you look at the yardage totals in the first half compared to the second half, Notre Dame finally just figured them out and just sat on them. Buchner, I thought, looked pretty good despite having 3 interceptions. He was either making a terrible decision or he was looking really good. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of in between.
Notre Dame outrushed South Carolina by 200 yards.
Yeah.
He had a 200-yard advantage in rushing.
That was kind of the story. South Carolina was missing a lot of players. Notre Dame also missing, I think, about 5 guys in this game, 5 starters. And South Carolina maybe even more than that. So it wasn't 2 teams at full strength, but it was clearly 2 teams that were playing hard and trying to win this game. Like, both teams, it was just a fun bowl game. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. It's what you want. Tyler Buchner, and I mean, it's great that he got to play. He's not playing next year. We'll just go ahead and confirm that one. Sam Hartman will be getting all of the first team reps come August. Yeah, I would be shocked to see him get on the field for any meaningful snaps next year. One other game I was just going to mention, Florida State beats Oklahoma.
Yeah.
In the Cheez-It Bowl. Florida State goes into the offseason with all of the good vibes. Yes. I mean, really, they're mopping up right now in the transfer portal. What a good year for Florida State. They had 3 losses in the middle of the year. They rebound, finish strong. They're going to feel really good coming into next season.
Yeah. They haven't been recruiting at the highest level, but like you said, the portal is where they've really been making noise. Um, and if you can recruit at a B plus level, but also recruit the portal at an A plus level, like you can have a pretty good year.
Yeah.
Um, they already had a pretty good year, but you have to think just looking at next year for the ACC, like Clemson will be favored as they should be, and they'll probably win it. But we're used to seeing them favored, like, I mean, usually they're like minus 600 or something to win the conference. And I
Right.
don't think we're going to see that next year. I think Florida State, maybe some other teams, but Florida State's odds are going
Yeah.
to be much better next year than they have been for the previous 4 or 5 years. And that's just a testament to what they're building.
They closed the gap. They've closed the gap on Clemson for sure. Yeah, you can't just say that, well, it's Clemson and then everyone else a long way behind. It's not anymore. Florida State is
Yeah,
absolutely closing that gap. So
sure.
yeah, LSU beats Purdue 63-7. That's only notable because it was 63-7. That was just a bloodbath.
Yep.
Yeah, that was kind of it. The bowl games, there wasn't a ton of depth in the bowls. I didn't feel like Kansas Arkansas was awesome. I mean, went to 3 overtimes. That was
Yeah.
a good one, but neither one of those teams are great this year. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of bowl games. Some were good, some weren't. Um, what conferences did you think did well? Do you want to go into conferences? Everyone uses these bowls to kind of my conference versus your conference. I'm an SEC fan. We do it as much as anyone. And yeah, SEC not off to a great start. They rebound, finish strong. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of all a wash for me. But yeah.
I tend to think that the conference bowl record is a pretty overvalued number. Um,
Yeah.
I do think that when it comes to bowl season, so much of it is a crapshoot. You have so many different things. You have players opting out.
Sure. Right.
You have veterans barely practicing because they're trying to get young players more practice time and more playing time. And you have guys that are just enjoying vacation and clear. Like I think maybe there was like I saw a video of like a Florida pass rusher just like barely walking up the field.
Yes,
Like
that happened. Yeah.
some some teams really want to win. Some teams are ready for the season to be over, and that we have
Yeah.
so many bowl games. And I say that, and I'm absolutely not the person that's out there. There's way too many bowl games. Listen, it's a good reward for teams that win at least 500, and no one is forcing you to watch bowl games number 21 through 40.
Right.
A few of those might even interest you and could be fun to watch. Just let them enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like there's not too many bowl games. It's fine.
Sure.
Just
Sure.
watch the ones you want to watch. It's not hurting anybody.
Iowa beat Kentucky 21-0.
Yes.
Somehow that game stayed under. I heard one guy say, "Oh, that's funny. I didn't know Iowa's punter could score 3 touchdowns." Which I thought
Two
was
pick sixes, correct?
Yeah, right, correct. He hadn't watched the game and he was just making a comment about like, oh my good, like how did that even happen? It was. I agree with you. The whole conference thing's kind of overrated. I would put way more stock into non-conference game regular season. Like,
Yeah.
like how does Florida State end up? South Carolina, Clemson, stuff like that. I would put more stock into stuff. Games like that, like Georgia, Oregon, early in the year, as actual indicators of how good conferences are. So, Mike Leach, the Mike Leach Memorial Game, I guess you could call, in the ReliaQuest Bowl, Mississippi State wins. I thought that was kind of neat. Will Rogers at the end of the game, nice tribute to him, kind of tearing up afterward. That was neat. But yeah, other than that, that was kind of about it for me. I didn't go too deep into the bowls.
One of the issues with me personally watching as many bowls as I always think I'm going to is just it's over the holidays and you're trying to spend time with family and
It's hard to do. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's see. You mentioned Sam Hartman going to Notre Dame.
Yes, I did.
Obviously, Wake Forest quarterback the last number of years. Actually, the ACC's all-time leader in passing touchdowns. How do you like the fit? Do you feel like this is an and I guess there's layers to this. Of course, obviously, we've seen Notre Dame go to the playoff, and we've also seen them be pretty good but not make it. Like it feels like this is one of those things, but which one is it?
No, this is the best Notre Dame could have hoped for, in
Yeah.
my opinion. You could not have done better. I think when Devin Leary went to Kentucky, it was like, oof, that's kind of a rough look because who is left for Notre Dame? And then Hartman kind of came out of nowhere. No one really suspected that, I don't think, or at least I didn't. That was kind of a surprise when he went to the portal. And then huge get for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Like you have to be thrilled. It's a immediate upgrade at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And he can come in day one, be the guy, and even help you develop guys down the line. Like it's going to help your underclassmen as well. Just like seeing that, because Hartman, like he's by all accounts just an absolute professional. Does it? He's a really like he's very intelligent, but as well as extremely athletic. So yeah, I think it's a really good get for Notre Dame. I think that's the kind of guy that they needed.
I would agree. I think we've talked a lot about Tommy Rees,
Yes.
and he had some
Yes.
pretty severe failures in his past, even in this season and recruiting. I mean, they lost Dante Moore. The way he ended the season, they put up a lot of points on South Carolina. He got Kenny Minchie to sign a good freshman quarterback to come in when it looked like they might not get a quarterback in the class. And now he
Right.
gets Sam Hartman, who several different places have called the top quarterback in the portal this year. The
Yeah.
Athletic had him as number one. 24/7 Sports has him as the top quarterback in the portal. It feels like Tommy Rees has earned himself a really good look next year. They're going to have the best tackle tandem in the country probably next year. Joe Alt was an All-American, and Blake Fisher was close. They're going to have a better receiving core than they've had in several years. They're attacking the portal in that area, and they have a lot of the best receivers on most of the best receivers on their roster are really young. So like they are going to
Right.
have a good receiving core next year. They're going
Right.
to have one of the best running back rooms in the country next year. Maybe not the best, but it's going to
Yeah.
be really good. Audric
Yeah.
Estime and Logan Diggs, both true sophomores this year, and both looked really good.
Yep.
Next year, I mean, with Sam Hartman coming in, it's either like it's time. Tommy Rees,
Yeah.
you got all the pieces for a top 10 offense. Let's see it. Like we will definitively have an answer next year because there's been like this year you have Drew Pine at quarterback, and then that limits what you can do. And other years like we've had these like we've been able to look at Notre Dame and see, well, okay, so they don't have a great offense, but there's some reasons why you could see why they wouldn't. Next
Right.
year, there is no reason for them not to have a top 10 offense, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I agree completely. And a guy that has like a quarterback with experience too, a quarterback that's seen a lot
Yes.
of football that you have coming in, that's not going to be blown away by like you say Tommy Reed, like he's an intellect and he throws a lot at you as a quarterback, and sometimes it's overwhelming. Like people, that's kind of the thought. And like it shouldn't be for Hartman. Like
Yeah.
if it's too complex for Hartman, like that's a you problem.
Yes.
You need to get a different system. So yeah, I agree. Like the excuses are gone. It needs to work, or he'll probably be looking for a new job.
Right. Anything else in the portal that stands out to you? I can't remember what all we talked about previously. I know Georgia has actually gone and gotten a couple highly ranked receivers out of the portal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
thoughts on
Mhm.
that as a resident Georgia fan?
Good. I mean, good for us. Like I like our receiver room anyway. I
Yeah.
really do. I like Arian Smith will be back. AD Mitchell will be back. Brock Bowers will be back. Like Lad McConkey will still be there. Georgia was kind of fine. Like I was kind of okay. And apparently we went and decided to add more. Yeah, Kirby Smart is joining the arms race. Suddenly Georgia's an offensive team. It's making no sense to me. Why aren't we getting a running back was my question. But yeah, no, that's kind of where we're going. Georgia likes having a top five offense too, I guess was kind of what I took from it. I don't know. It was surprising. I didn't think we would get those guys. It's good to see. You can't have too many talented guys on your team at one time, especially like guys with experience that are bought in at the SEC level. Like these guys they were ball players in the SEC this year, and now you get them on your team. So yeah, that's great. LSU is doing well in the portal. I noticed LSU is picking up a lot of guys just kind of
Hmm.
sliding in. It's not super like Denver Harris, the cornerback. He's
Yeah.
committed. I think he committed to LSU. He was kind of one of the top corners outside Travis Hunter in the portal. That's yeah, that he'll be one of the next LSU cornerback, like the guy that gets to the NFL. I didn't have much outside of that. There's so many guys switching, but we haven't had the shocker yet. Like there hasn't been the guy. I guess you could say Sam Hartman was, but there's not the guy yet that it's like whoa, I haven't seen, like I didn't see that coming, So in some ways, people say a lot about the portal, and I think it's kind of been a little overhyped almost in some way. Like there's a lot of people changing, but it's almost like we weren't happy there. We're going, we're just switching kind of for the sake of switching. And I don't know if teams are really going to benefit or not.
Yeah, I do think if you look at, okay, like Florida State would be one
Yeah,
school,
they did
Michigan
well.
would be
Sure,
one,
they
TCU
did
would
good.
be one. There
Yeah,
are some schools that are clearly doing well and will be better
improving.
next year for it.
Agreed.
I also think like a big part of this portal thing is we're seeing a lot of reshuffling that's probably not going to change a whole lot. There's some
Yeah,
that's changing stuff. There's also a lot that's really not going to change much.
right.
Um, yeah. Okay. Anything else we should talk about before we wrap this episode up?
No, the championship is again. It's on Monday night,
Yes.
and then after that, we will not have college football again until August. The end of August. We could just say the 1st of September. That's a long time from now. Enjoy it. We have one last game day before it's done for a while. So that's kind of what we try to do. Me and you, we're both just college football fans. Like that's what we are, and we just enjoy talking about it. So we enjoy these days, and my team might repeat as champs, and that is just wild to think about. So I had a really good offseason last offseason. I will be insufferable if we go back to back. So root for TCU. All of you guys root for TCU. You do not want to see me another whole offseason. We are the new Bama. You will not convince me otherwise. We are the new Bama. Come at me. Let's go.
All right. Well, I agree with the thought there at the beginning. Watch this game, enjoy this game, even if it's a blowout. Watch the whole thing and enjoy it because it's about to be done for a long time. And thankfully, we actually have a lot to talk about typically now in the off season of college football, which is not really an off season anymore.
Sure.
It's still not as good as real football.
Yeah.
And
right.
You got to enjoy it while you have it. Okay. Thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate having you guys. It's a new year, 2023. Excited about what this year could bring for the podcast and for college football in general. Thank you all for listening. Have a great week, and God bless you all.